July 10th is not going to end anything loudly. That is what makes it dangerous. On this date, something you thought you still needed is quietly lifted out of your hands. Not because love failed you, but because one version of love has simply expired. You may already feel it. A strange fatigue where there used to be longing. A detachment you cannot explain. The unsettling sense that you are somehow done with someone you once could not release. This is not a breakup being predicted. This is a release being completed. Painful, but merciful. Quiet, but final. Because what is leaving now is not love itself. It is the version of love that required you to abandon yourself to keep it. To understand why, you have to see what is actually meeting in the sky. On July 9th, one day before the release, Venus enters Virgo, and she does not arrive to rest. She walks straight into the arms of the South Node at the very start of a new sign. That timing is the signal. The moment love changes rooms, it is handed something to surrender. The South Node is the release point. It empties. It dissolves what has already expired. It does not destroy the love. It removes what love was propping up long after the life had gone out of it. And Venus governs far more than romance. She rules attraction, beauty, money, desire, and self-worth. This touches everything you have quietly assigned value to. Virgo sharpens all of it into something precise. The overgiving, the over-explaining, the fixing, the proving, the staying useful so you would never be left. Virgo does not ask if the love was intense. It asks if it was healthy. And here is where this stops being about the sky. Because you may already be feeling it. The strange, quiet detachment that arrived without a fight. A dream about someone you had not thought of in months. The urge to delete the messages you once reread like scripture. That subtle loss of the desire to chase. Grief, yes, but grief without panic. Nostalgia that no longer asks you to go back. Notice something. Your body may already be done before your mind agrees. The attraction is softer. The longing has lost its urgency. And for some of you, what is releasing is more precise. You are done with love that only felt safe behind a closed door. Affection that asked you to keep parts of yourself untranslated. You are tired of being easy to understand. These signs are not random. They are pointing to 3 specific things being released, and the third one rewrites your timeline. So let me name them, because Venus meeting the South Node in Virgo does not release one thing. It releases 3. The first is the fantasy, the quiet story that they would eventually become safe enough to love you correctly, given time, given patience. The second is the labor, the pattern where you earned affection through usefulness, through service, through being the one who overfunctioned so no one had to notice you needed anything. And the third is the deepest, the old contract that tied your worth to whether or not they chose you. That is the one that rewrites the timeline. So let me place you inside the actual sequence, because this is not a single moment. It is a cosmic timeline unfolding across 5 days. It starts quietly on July 6th. A strange restlessness, a wave of nostalgia with no clear cause. Something inside you already shifting before your mind can explain why. Then July 9th. Venus enters Virgo at 1:22 p.m. Eastern. The energy sharpens. It becomes precise, embodied, tied to real standards of how love should actually treat you. And on July 10th, Venus meets the South Node at 0 degrees, 39 minutes of Virgo. The karmic release point activates. Here is what makes this so easy to miss. It does not arrive loud. It arrives like waking up and realizing the attachment has already begun leaving you. So the first thing this transit releases is not the person. It is the fantasy. Let me be precise, because this is where most people stay trapped for years. The South Node dissolves what you have karmically outgrown. And what you outgrew was never their presence. It was the story you built around who they might eventually become. The version that would finally choose you. The one who would soften, wake up, come back ready. The safe version you kept waiting for. That waiting had a texture. You know it. Reading into small gestures. Rebuilding hope from almost nothing. Loving the potential more than the reality standing in front of you. Here is what Venus in Virgo does at this destiny point. It stops measuring love by what could happen and starts measuring it by what actually did. And this is not about blame. What you felt may have been real. They may have meant something true. But potential is not proof. Hope is not presence. And something being real does not make it sustainable. The shift is quiet. The fantasy simply loses its charge. Not with bitterness, with clarity. And once that illusion releases its grip, something heavier underneath begins to surface. And here is what surfaces. The realization that some of what you called love was actually labor. Venus in Virgo does not deal in fantasy. It deals in function. It touches the South Node and asks a sharper question than the last one. Not what you were waiting for, what you were doing to keep it. Because Virgo is the sign of service, of fixing, of managing. And at this destiny point, it reveals where love quietly became a job description. Sit with this. Where did affection turn into obligation? Where were you, the one softening every conflict, explaining yourself so they would not misunderstand? Forgiving faster than you healed? Where were you praised for being low maintenance while doing the emotional work for two people? Where did you accept crumbs because they were trying? And for many of you, this cuts into something older. The pattern of staying useful to stay accepted. Being easy to read, being easy to keep, shrinking your desire so no one had to stretch to meet it, confusing being tolerated with being loved, confusing being needed with being chosen. Here is what releases now. If the connection only worked when you managed everything, then labor was holding it together as much as love was. Name that. Feel the weight lift. Because underneath the labor lives something even more costly. And that is where this goes next. Underneath the labor was a contract you never agreed to out loud. The contract that said their choice was the verdict on your worth. That if they could not stay, could not commit, could not fully see you, then the missing piece must be in you. This is the deepest layer of what Venus touches at the South Node. Not the loss, the conclusion you drew from the loss. And on July 10th, that conclusion expires. Here is the mechanism. The South Node is where old karmic patterns dissolve, and Venus rules what we believe we deserve. When they meet, the belief itself is what releases. So the story that said something is wrong with me because they did not choose me is not being edited. It is being cleared from the timeline. For some of you, this reaches into places that were never spoken. Love kept private. Approval that arrived only with conditions. The exhausting sense that you had to become acceptable before you were allowed to be held. Hear this clearly. You were never less lovable because someone could only love you in fragments. Their limit was never a measurement of you. That is what returns now. The worth you outsourced to another person's small capacity comes back to you, not as bitterness. And once your worth is your own again, one thing becomes possible that was not before. And here is the detail almost no one is pointing to. This conjunction does not happen deep in Virgo. It happens at 0 degrees. 0 degrees, 39 minutes. The very threshold of the sign. And that placement changes everything about how this release moves. 0 degrees of any sign is what astrologers call a world point, a clean entry, a doorway where a new quality is being born out of exactly what is being shed. So this is not simply an ending, it is an ending standing at a beginning. The first step onto a cleaner standard of love. And Virgo is the sign that makes it precise. Because Virgo does not ask the question the ego wants to ask. Virgo does not ask, was it intense? Virgo asks, was it healthy? Was it consistent? Did it actually care for your life? That is why this release is surgical, not sweeping. It does not erase everything that once mattered. It removes only what could not meet the standard you are now stepping into. Which raises the real question. What does Virgo demand of love now? So what does this actually feel like once the threshold is crossed? At first, almost nothing. That is the point. The change does not announce itself. You simply notice that the old attraction has less grip. The longing is still there, but it stops running you. You stop refreshing for proof. You stop rehearsing what you would say if they reached out. Not through willpower, through something that quietly moved while you were not watching. Then the standards return. Boundaries stop feeling negotiable. Emotionally safe love starts to matter more than intense love. And that reflex to be needed, to earn closeness by being useful, loses its pull. Here is the honest part. You may still remember them. You may still care. But the hook is different now. The spell is weaker. The pull has lost its authority. This is not numbness. It is not bitterness. It is what it feels like to love yourself more than you love the illusion. And that is exactly where the final step becomes possible. So here is the truth the title has been carrying the whole time. The love you outgrew is finally releasing you. Not because you failed to hold it, because you became too whole for a version of love that could only keep you by keeping you small. Let that reframe everything. You were not too much. You were too complete for what they could offer. And on July 10th, as Venus meets the South Node, the universe is making that official. So mark it. Comment, I release the old love, if you're ready to let go of love that shrank you. Or comment, I choose my worth, if you're ready for love that never asks you to disappear. And if this found you right on time, stay close. The next cosmic update will keep meeting you exactly where you are.